Hello and welcome. In this video, we'll talk about parallelizing your builds. What you need in order to do that is to have an Azure DevOps account that has multiple host agents and/or multiple private agents. You'll also need a project with multiple solutions so that we can actually parallelize them. So without further ado, let's go straight to the demo. So first thing you want to check is make sure that your Azure DevOps account has multiple hosted agents or multiple self-hosted agents. In order to do that, you're going to go to your organization settings. You're going to look at parallel and retention parallel jobs. And as we can see, we have I have paid parallel jobs here. So I have two. I also have two self-hosted. So if I had VMs that I had in the cloud or even on-prem, I could actually target those and do two parallel releases. If this was a free public project, I would have 10 parallel jobs or 10 self-hosted jobs. So how do we actually add those if we don't? Well, we actually need to go to the marketplace, and as you can see here, we can see the different prices for the different things, and we can look for our Azure pipelines, and here we can select if we want 1, 2, 3 or more. And for each agent, it's $40 per month. So we can just basically add as many as we want, and those are the other paid services that we can change. So in order to do that, we just go basically to our the marketplace. So I can actually just decide that I want 2 here and then get. That will send me to the marketplace. It'll pick the Microsoft hosted CI/CD. From here, I can just decide that I want to get new CI/CD pipelines. This will send me into a billing scenario where I can pick my project. I can change the quantity that I want. I will pick my Azure subscription. It automatically did because I already have some for this particular project. And here I would just choose how many I want, say continue, review, and then I'd be done. So now that we have that set up, we're going to go back to our project, and if we look at our agent pool, we can see that I have actually 2 agents here, the 2 that I'm actually paying. All right, so once that's all set up and good to go, we can now go into our projects, look at our repo, and we can see that in this particular repo, I have 2 solutions which are exactly the same site. I just needed 2 solutions in order to do stuff in parallel. Now, mind you, this is not necessarily how I would do a Git repo and put multiple solutions in one Git repo. I most likely would have 1 solution per repo. I'm just doing this for sake of exercise and just showing you how we can actually do parallel jobs with 2 solutions. How we would do that is we would go into our build section. We would create a new build. And based on our new build, we would pick basically which repository we want to pick, which branch we're going to use. Notice that we can get stuff from GitHub, from GitHub Enterprise, Subversion, Bitbucket, some external Git source that is not listed here, or obviously the Azure repo Git. So once we have that, I know my project is an ASP.NET Core website, so I'm going to pick this. And this essentially creates the base that I need in order to create my build. So I'm not going to change anything. I'm just basically going to say save this and queue. And we should see how long this is going to take. So the steps that it's doing initially is it gets my source from Azure DevOps, then it restores all the NuGet packages that it needs. Then once that's done, it's going to build, run some tests, and then publish my artifacts back to my Azure DevOps. So you'll notice here that it's basically compiling my first website. And then since this is in series currently, it's going to just compile the second website after and then just move on to the rest of the tasks. And altogether, this takes about a minute 50, 2 minutes to do. And if we go look into our artifacts, we can see that we have website A and website B, which is exactly the two websites that we want. Those are MS project-ish type that we can just basically deploy to any Azure app service or even on-prem into IIS. So how do we parallelize this? Well, we're going to go back to our build. I'm going to edit our build. And then essentially what we want to do is we want to make sure that all these things are run for any websites that we have or any solutions that we have. In our case, the solutions are the same. So it's easy to kind of create a task group that's going to do all the stuff, all the same stuff twice. If what we're doing, we have websites that are not .NET Core and or Windows application and stuff, then we can't necessarily redo all these things because all of our tasks for a particular build might be different, but we can group things together. So for example, anything that has to do with, in our case, those are two sites that are they're the same sites. So they're ASP.NET Core sites. So what we can do is we can group all these tasks together and create a task group. But before we do that, we actually need to go into our pipeline and we need to unlink some parameters for our tasks because now they're linked to the whole pipeline, which we don't really want to do. So I'm going to select all this stuff. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say create a task group for this. We're going to call it .NET Core Website Build Task Group. And we only have currently one variable that we have, but we'll add some new ones once we go to our task group. So I'm going to save this, and as you can see now, all those tasks are now grouped into a task group. So I'm going to remove this, and we're going to say this is build website A, for example. And we're going to save this, and we're going to go into our task groups right now. Make sure that we surface variables at the top here. So in order to actually get per website, what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable here called website. And then in here, we're going to say grab anything that is from the beginning of our source into a name. So in our case, it's going to be website A and website B. And then grab anything that is C# projects inside of that particular folder. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to go over here. I'm going to do the same thing here. Here I'm going to replace this, but I'm going to keep the mask so that it only takes tests project. And then the publish and the publish to our drop is going to be the same, except here we're going to create a variable called drop so that we can name it for if we wanted to have different drop location for both of our sites. So once we've set that up, we'll see that we now have two new variables, drop and websites, that we're going to be able to use to basically make sure that they're different. The parameters that we need to build are different. So once we do that, we can go back to our build, look at our definition here. And now we'll see that we're missing two variables. So we need the drop location in this case, and then we need the website. So this one was called website A. And now we're actually building website A for release, the release configuration. So what we can do here now is, in order to parallelize, I'm going to add a new agent. And because I have multiple agents, I can say build website A. And we're going to say this is going to be build website B. And what we can do is we can clone this, bring down here, modify that to B, modify this to B. And we actually want to go to the same drop location so that all of our results from either of any configuration, any compilation will all go back to the same drop location so we can reuse that when we want to deploy later. So I'm going to save and queue this because now we're all ready, and this will basically start both because we have two agents right now, they should start in parallel. So once the agents are picked, in this case the two of them are picked, so they're both started in parallel, and they're going to build the same thing they were building just now when we saw the first one, but now they're each going to do their own thing. So B is building B and A is building A. We're going to see that the whole job will take about a minute and a half, about the same time, because this is a very simple build and it doesn't do much, right? So we're not going to see a huge difference, but once you have multiple things that you're building, it might be very, very different as far as tasks go. But as you can see, this one took agent 2 of our thing. This one took the first agent. So we see that both of these things are running in parallel, and it's much faster. So what do the artifact look like? We have our drop location, and if we go into our drop location, we'll see that we have A and B here. So it's the same output, but we double the speed pretty much. So that's how you basically set up a parallel build for multiple solution into one repo. This will conclude our video. Thank you for listening.